We're visiting today with Chris Childs, who is the Education and Outreach Librarian at Hardin Library here in Iowa City. He offers both individual and group consultations available to teach coursework, but also is out in the community working with other organizations in use of this library. So Chris has prepared several slides, which we'll go through now, offering more detail on using the library as well as many of the resources that are available here and electronically, after which I'll ask her a few more questions. And again, thank you for presenting your work today.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is Chris Childs, and I'm an Education and Outreach Librarian for the Hardin Library. I'm also the liaison to the College of Public Health, and what I'd like to talk to you today is give you a Hardin Library orientation and talk about some tips that you can use for searching. And the first resource we have is the InfoHawk Plus electronic catalog system. The InfoHawk Plus electronic catalog system allows you to search for any type of material, whether it's in print or electronic format, that we have in any of the libraries on campus. So you're not just searching for resources at the Hardin Library, you're also searching for resources in the other libraries on campus as well. Now, when you go to the Hardin Library's website, and you'll see I have the website address on the top of this slide, or you could just use any search engine you like and just type in Hardin Library. That will also take you to our website. You'll find the InfoHawk Plus catalog is on the top of the screen. And the first thing that you'll want to do is, to the right of the search box for the InfoHawk Plus catalog, there'll be a blue button with a magnifying glass icon in it. Click on that button. Then what you'll want to do is you'll want to log in with your Hawk ID and password. After you do that, there's a drop-down menu. Go ahead and select Library Catalog, and then start your search. And the reason you want to do all this is because when you are searching, in very general terms, you're either going to find the material that you're looking for. You'll find that it's either available electronically or it's only available in print. If it's available electronically, there'll be there's a series of buttons next to every record, and you'll just click on the button that says Find Online. And when you click on that button, it opens up a series of links, and this is our UI link. And this is our way of letting you know how you can get the material. So for example, you'll see a UI link. It's actually kind of an icon next to every citation in any of our databases, and it's just our way again of letting you know how you can get the material. So when you click that Find Online button, then you can just go ahead and click any link you want, and that should pull up the electronic, whether it's an electronic book, an electronic journal, or even an electronic article. If the material is not available electronically, there's a button called Details, and you'll click on that button, and that will tell you which library, let's say, for example, a book, which library has that book, whether it's the Hardin Library or the main library or any other library on campus. The reason that I would recommend that all of you log in with your Hawk ID and password before you begin searching is, once you find that book, there'll be a button that says Request. You can click that button, and then you can select any library on campus as your pickup location. What that means is, let's say the book is available at the main library. You don't want to go all the way to the main library to pick up that book. You can select the Hardin Library, and you'll get an email notification saying the book has arrived, and you have about 3 to 5 days to pick it up. All you have to do is show up to the reference desk, which is on the 3rd floor of the Hardin Library, and just say that you have a book on hold. Give your last name, and the person at the desk will pull up the book for you. You can select any pickup location on campus, whatever location is easiest for you. And so that's why I recommend that you log in with your Hawk ID and password before you begin searching. If you don't, and you pull up that record for a book, then you'll have to log in to be able to click that Request button. But unfortunately, and I don't know why it's set up this way, once you log in, you have to start all over again with your search process. So very, very important whenever you're using the InfoHawk Plus electronic catalog system, just make it a habit of logging in with your Hawk ID and password before you begin your searching. There's a lot more you can do with the InfoHawk Plus electronic catalog system, but those are just some of the main things that I wanted to mention. I'll also just mention briefly, on the left-hand side, you have a series of limits or filters, depending on how you would like to call them. And this allows you to narrow down your search. And you can select as many of those as you like, depending on what you're searching for. The next resource we have is electronic journals and electronic book collections. And they're just that. They allow you, whether you're searching for journals or books, to search those materials electronically. The nice thing about the electronic journals is not only can you search throughout an entire journal and look at all the articles that are available, but you can also search within that specific journal, and it'll pull up all articles that have the terms that you've entered in. With our electronic books collections, you can search for specific books, or you could actually look through what we call electronic book vendors. So for example, like Springer or StatRef. These are electronic book vendors, and so you could actually search within those vendors and see what electronic books are available through them. Now you will also find electronic books that don't have to do with the health sciences, such as history or religion, for example, depending on what vendor you search. But you do have that option as well. We also have health science databases. And when you go to the Hardin Library website, by default, there's a series of tabs, and our database tab will be open by default. And you'll see a list of databases such as Pubmed, CINAHL, and several other databases. These are just the most popularly searched databases. But at the end of that list, it'll be on the right-hand side. It'll say Health Science Resources A to Z. If you click on that button, that will give you a comprehensive list of all the health sciences databases. And it's just that, a list of health sciences databases. So I think as of today, there's 102. But if you look above that number, you'll see a number, and I believe it's maybe 989 databases. That's a list of all the databases that we have on campus. So to save time, if you go to the Hardin Library's website and click on that Health Science Resources A to Z, you just have a list of health sciences databases. You don't have to weed through databases that aren't relevant to what you're searching for. We also have a series of subject guides, and I have a PowerPoint slide on some subject guides that I think all of you should keep in mind. What these subject guides are is it's basically our way of kind of grouping together information that we feel might be useful to you. Every liaison has created a subject guide to their college and department. So there is a subject guide for public health, and what I've done is I've broken it down by departments. Now these subject guides don't list everything that's available through the Hardin Library, but just things that, for example, with the public health subject guide, I feel you might be interested in. So for example, I do have links to electronic journals and electronic books, but they are certainly not all the electronic journals and electronic books that are available to you. So again, on another slide, I have subject guides I would recommend that you look at, and I also have the direct links to those guides as well. So now I'd like to move on to some features, and one feature that I cannot talk enough about, and I really, really want you to remember this, is interlibrary loan and document delivery. And the first thing I want you to remember is this is completely free to you. Interlibrary loan and document delivery is a free service, and you can request any materials that we have at the University of Iowa and any materials that we don't have at the University of Iowa. You can request as many materials in as many formats as you need. And again, it is completely free. So the way that it works is, let's say you're searching PubMed, for example, and you would like an article. And let's say we have it at the Hardin Library, but you're at home. Now you don't have to come to the Hardin Library, find the journal, find the article, and then scan it. You can just request that article through interlibrary loan. Because it's a scannable material, and that includes not only an article but a chapter or section of a book, If we have it at the Hardin Library, someone from that department will take your request and they will find the material, they'll scan it, they'll send it to the email address of your choice as a PDF within 24 hours. If that scannable material is not available at the Hardin Library or any other library at the university, they'll take your request, they'll forward it to a library that does have that scannable material. At that point, they say 1 to 3 business days, just because they're not sure of the interlibrary loan policies of the other library. But the process is the same. That material will be scanned and sent to the email address of your choice as a PDF document. Now, regarding books, or anything that cannot be scanned, again, if there's a book that you want and you're looking at the InfoHawk Plus electronic catalog system, and you click request, and you notice after you click request, it'll give you a number. It'll let you know where you are in the queue. And what that means is it lets you know how many other people before you have requested this material. And if you find that other people before you have requested this book, you do not have to wait in line to get this book. You can actually request it through interlibrary loan. And they will go ahead and find the closest library that has that book. Also, again, if there's a book that you want that we don't have at Hardin, or it's not available in any other library on campus, you can request that book as well. They'll find the closest library that has that book. The book will be sent to the pickup location of your choice. It'll have a yellow band around it. And that yellow band has the due date that was given by the library that the book came from. All you have to do is return that book to any library or any book drop on campus before the due date, and that book will be returned to you. And again, interlibrary loan document delivery is completely free. So anything you find in our catalog system in any of our databases, you can get completely free. Anything that we don't have in our catalog system, or maybe there's an article that you found in a database that we don't have, you can still request that. There is a link to interlibrary loan and document delivery on our website. It's under the services box. When you click that link, the first thing you'll have to do is create an account. And it'll ask you a series of questions like, what email address would you like scannable items sent to? Where would you like to pick up like books or maybe DVDs? And if you happen to have an office, you can give your office address, and that material will be sent directly to your office. If not, just select whatever library on campus you'd like to pick up the materials. This is an extremely important feature, and it never ceases to amaze me, whether it's students, residents, or faculty who have spent, whether it's a year or several years here at the university, and were not aware that this service was free and available to you. So if there is one thing that I want you to remember from this presentation, it's that interlibrary loan and document delivery is completely free to you. Another feature that we have is EndNote Desktop and EndNote Basic. I do have a slide on these programs, and so I'll talk about it a little bit more detail when I get to that slide. But I just want to point out that these are resources that I think all of you should take a little time and learn how to use. What they are is they're bibliographic software programs that allow you to import citations from any of our databases. You can organize those citations in what are known as groups. Think of them as folders. And then when you're ready to write your paper, EndNote Desktop and EndNote Basic, whichever format you decide to use, they use a plugin called Cite While You Write, and that allows you to embed your citations within your document. And as you embed your citations, it also generates a bibliography using whatever bibliographic output style you want. And it does it all with a click of a button. I tell people it'll take you an hour to learn EndNote. It'll save you hours and hours of time. We also have tutorials and help sheets, and again, I have a slide that lists some tutorials that I think all of you should be aware of. We have some great tutorials. We have one on interlibrary loan, for example. We have one on Pubmed and several other of our popularly used databases. And then we also have a one-button studio, and this is kind of a new feature to the library, and came to be about a year ago. And the One Button Studio is located directly across from the third floor reference desk. You can make a reservation for the One Button Studio, or if no one is using it, there's a schedule on the door. You can use the studio. What it is it is literally that, just a studio where you just press a button and you can practice your presentations, whether it's for like a class or whether it's for an interview or what have you. And they tried to make this system as easy as possible, and it literally is just a click of a button, and you can just go ahead and practice your presentation. You have to get a key from the third floor reference desk. So again, if you've made an appointment, or if you just like to use it and no one's currently using it, just ask the person at the desk if you could have the key to the One Button Studio. So what I'd like to talk to you about is, unfortunately I don't have time to talk about all of our resources, but one resource that I want all of you to be aware of, and it's really the first resource that I recommend everyone start searching, is Pubmed. And there's a couple key features about Pubmed I want you to be aware of, and one of them is that Pubmed is actually a free database. Pubmed is sponsored by the National Library of Medicine. So I'm going to throw a couple titles and acronyms at you. So in addition to the National Library of Medicine, there's also the National Institute of Health, and the National Library of Medicine is actually part of that. Pubmed is considered an NCBI resource, which stands for National Center for Biotechnology Information. Most of those databases from the National Center for Biotechnology Information, or NCBI as the acronym is called, have to deal with genetics and genomics. Pubmed is one of the few databases that have to do with literature, and it actually is the most popularly known NCBI resource. The acronym for National Institute of Health is NIH. The acronym for National Library of Medicine is NLM. So if you see the title, National Library of Medicine, National Institute of Health, National Center for Biotechnology Information, or the acronyms NLM, NIH, or NCBI, all those databases and all those resources are free to you. But while you're here at the university, it's very, very important that you access Pubmed through the Hardin Library website. So you'll have access to full text articles that the university subscribes to electronically. So for example, Pubmed has about 26 million citations from 5,000 scholarly journals around the world. Pubmed is considered one of the better databases to search for biomedical literature because it covers all topics in the biosciences. Now, out of those 26 million citations, I'd say about 3 to 5 million are available for free electronically, which means anyone anywhere in the world can access those articles. But while you have your Hawk ID and password, again, make sure you access Pubmed through the Hardin Library website, because you'll have access to millions of more articles through our electronic journal subscriptions. So it's very, very important that you do that. Citations in Pubmed go back to the 1940s, but I've actually seen citations go back to the 1850s. And as I mentioned before, when you're searching Pubmed and you're looking at citations, you'll see a UI link button next to any of your citations. You click on that button, and that will tell you your options for accessing the article, whether that article is available electronically or whether we have it at the Hardin Library, a physical copy, or if we just don't have it at all. Again, you can request that article through interlibrary loan, so it's not available electronically. That's okay. You can still get it for free. And the last item on this slide is we do have a Pubmed tutorial, and I had a hand in creating this, and it's broken down into different sections depending on what you want to learn about when using Pubmed, and there's a lot of screenshots. So it's a really good tutorial to check out. As I mentioned before, I do have a slide here for subject guides, and the URL at the very top just takes you to our subject guides page. You might also hear the term LibGuide. That's technically what they're called. Some of my colleagues also call them LibGuides, but I do a lot of community outreach and I talk to groups who aren't affiliated with the university, so I've just gotten in the habit of calling them subject guides. And here's a list of some subject guides that I think you should remember, and to just look at and just check it out to see if there's information in there that you would find useful. You certainly don't have to use the subject guides that have been assigned to colleges and departments. That's really your choice. For example, the first one I have on this list is public health. Okay, and I have a database page, and where I have some databases listed that I think might be useful to you when you're searching. But first of all, that's not a comprehensive list of all the databases that we have at the Hardin Library, and you also don't have to go through the Public Health Subject Guide to access these databases. In fact, I would probably suggest you don't. So for example, if you wanted to access Pubmed, you can just find the link to it on our homepage. You don't have to go into the Public Health Subject Guide to access it. There's so many different ways you can find information from the Hardin Library website, and we kind of set it up that way just to give you options, but I'm all about efficiency and making things as easy for you as possible. So it's really up to you how you want to access the resources. But again, there is a subject guide on public health, and I've broken it down by department, and I have a lot of information in there. There's also one on global health. I recently became the liaison to global health. So if you find that you're doing any research and it has an international component, you might also want to look at the global health subject guide as well. If you're looking for information on statistics for the health sciences, there's a subject guide for that as well. There's a subject guide for citation management programs, and that's where you'll find information for EndNote and EndNote Basic. If you're interested on information about evidence-based practice, there's also a subject guide for that. And then I wanted to include, I have a subject guide that's called Free Clinical Research and Patient Wellness Resources. And I realize that all of you right now have a Hawk ID and password, so you have access to all of our databases and all of our resources. But as I mentioned before, I also do community outreach. So when you do leave the University of Iowa, or if you have colleagues or friends who aren't affiliated with an academic institution, this Free Clinical Research and Patient Wellness Resources subject guides lists free, high-quality resources that you can use to search for clinical, evidence-based practice or patient wellness information. So if anything, when you leave the University of Iowa, you can use any of the resources on this guide. So here's another slide on interlibrary loan document delivery. Again, I just want to kind of review some of the key features. So delivery times for articles and book chapters or anything that can be scanned, 24 hours if the item is at the Hardin Library, 1 to 3 days if the item is at another library. Again, those items will be sent as a PDF document to the email address of your choice. Delivery time for books that are not available at the Hardin Library are 5 to 7 business days. Again, you can select the pickup location of your choice, whether it's your office if you have one or any library on campus. The book will have a yellow band on the front cover, and that band has the due date that was given by the library where the book came from. And it's just very important that you return the book before the due date to any library or book drop on campus. And I also have a link to the tutorial about interlibrary loan. Okay, so EndNote Desktop and EndNote Basic. I just want to talk about some key features about both these programs. Again, these are bibliographic management programs. They allow you to import citations from any of our databases and sort them into groups, which are really folders. Again, it uses a plugin called Cite While You Write that allows you to embed your citation placeholders into your paper and instantly creates and formats a bibliography using whatever bibliographic software program you want. So there's 2 different versions of EndNote, and it's really up to you which version you want. EndNote Desktop has to be installed by the IT department at the College of Public Health, and it can only be accessed from one computer. EndNote Basic can be accessed anywhere on the internet, and all you have to do is just sign up for an EndNote Basic account. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, really, what's the difference, other than, one can only be installed and accessed from one computer versus one can be accessed on the internet. I actually always encourage everyone to get an EndNote desktop account, because when you leave the university, you'll still have your EndNote desktop account, or library as we call it. So for example, if you have EndNote desktop installed on your personal computer, when you leave the university, you still have your EndNote desktop library, and you'll have all the citations that you've imported into your library. The only thing that you won't have access to is the articles through our electronic journal subscriptions. EndNote Basic, because it is another electronic resource, when you leave the university, you'll lose access to your EndNote Basic account. Those who are publishing like to use EndNote Desktop because you can do more with your citations, and there's unlimited citation storage. EndNote Basic is a little more limited. For example, underclassmen cannot get EndNote Desktop. They only have access to EndNote Basic. And the thought process behind that is that EndNote Basic gives them everything they need to write papers for their classes. But again, those who are publishing might want to use EndNote Desktop. Now, if you have an office in the College of Public Health, you should have EndNote automatically downloaded on your computer, but that's not really your own personal version of EndNote, because anyone can access that. So I always recommend people who have their own office to also just ask the IT department at the College of Public Health to install EndNote Desktop to their personal computer. Now, I could go on and on about EndNote, but unfortunately, I don't have time to do that today. So I just want to talk about those kind of distinctions between the two different types. You can also get a subscription to EndNote Desktop and EndNote Basic, and sync your libraries together if you want to do that. You can find out information on EndNote Desktop and EndNote Basic on our Citation Management Subject Guide, and I've got the link for that. And we also have a tutorial on EndNote Desktop and EndNote Basic that's also included in the Citation Management Subject Guide. So when you go to that subject guide, you'll see a tab, and one will say EndNote and one will say EndNote Basic. And depending on which version you're interested in, you just click on those tabs. And each tab also has a comparison, so you can kind of compare the two. I will say that I think EndNote Basic is much more intuitive, so if you open up an EndNote Basic account, it's very easy to figure out how to use it. Where EndNote Desktop, it's not as intuitive, and it might take a little longer to learn, but again, it's really up to you which one you want to get. And again, if you can, you do have access to EndNote Desktop and EndNote Basic, so I would recommend you get EndNote Desktop on your personal computer, and you will permanently have that for as long as you like. And then you can also get EndNote Basic as well, but that's up to you. As I mentioned before, I have a slide here for tutorials and help sheets. The link at the top of the slide is to the tutorials and help sheets page. And just some ones that I think you should look at when you have a chance is Pubmed, Interlibrary Loan, EndNote Desktop, and EndNote Basic. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to go over some tips for searching. And these tips will apply to every database that we have, and also databases that we don't have. So on this slide, I have two very popular methods of searching. One is called Boolean logic, and one is called truncation. But before we even get to that, I'm sure all of you remember diagramming sentences in school. I like to tell people, before you even start searching, kind of diagram your question and just pick out the main topics that you want to search. Okay, so let's say, for example, those main topics are diabetes and hypertension. The most popular way to search is using Boolean logic, and Boolean logic uses three operators: and, or not. Depending on which Boolean operator you put between your terms determines the results that you'll get. So for example, if I type in diabetes and hypertension, what I'm telling the database that I'm searching is I want both topics in one article. So I'm going to get narrow results. And Using and when you're searching is the most popular way to use Boolean logic. Now the second example, you type in or between your topics. What it does is it expands your results. So I'm basically telling the database I want an article, I just want one topic per article. So in this case, when I do diabetes or hypertension, I'm getting everything that a database has about diabetes separately from everything a database has about hypertension. So it's going to expand my results. Now, if I do diabetes, not hypertension, that will explicitly exclude the term hypertension. So for example, if I'm searching Pubmed and I just type in diabetes, I'll get everything that Pubmed has about diabetes that includes information on hypertension. But if I do diabetes, not hypertension, I have explicitly excluded hypertension from my search. Now I will say nothing's perfect, so if you do put not in front of a term and you're searching a database, you might still find that term listed in maybe the first couple articles in your search results, but as you scroll down, that term should be eliminated from your search. Another method of searching is truncation. It's not as popular as Boolean logic, but it is a great way to search. So let's take the root word path, for example. So in any database, you type in PATH, and then you put an asterisk after the H. What that does is that tells the database that you want every single variation off that root word. So for example, some of those variations are pathology, pathological, from that root word PATH. Now sometimes the database will ask you to lengthen that root word to find more variations. It just really depends on what the root word is. Another popular method or reason for using truncations is for different spellings of a word. So for example, pediatrics is spelled differently overseas. So if you type in that root word and put the asterisk in, you should get all the different variation spellings of pediatrics in Pubmed, for example. So if you're doing a search involving the term pediatrics, you probably want to use truncation just to make sure you get all the articles with all the different spellings. Before I move on to my next slide, I just want to point out that you'll notice under Boolean logic, I have the operators capitalized. This is really important, especially in Pubmed, which just offers you from the home page one search box. I recommend that you capitalize the Boolean operators because that guarantees that Pubmed or any database you're searching recognizes that and or not as a Boolean operator and not as a search term. Every database also has a controlled vocabulary, and the most, I think one of the most clear examples of a controlled vocabulary is any library that you go to. So for example, if you were to go into your public library, their controlled vocabulary is the Dewey Decimal System. The libraries here at the University of Iowa use the Library of Congress subject headings. So all databases do have a controlled vocabulary, and they're called by different terms. So for example, some databases just call them subject terms, some databases call them index terms. Pubmed, their controlled vocabulary is called medical subject headings, or MESH. And the way that it works, and again, I could spend an entire hour going into Pubmed and at least half of that going into subject searching, which uses the controlled vocabulary of Pubmed. But basically what it does is when you're typing in a search, like diabetes, hypertension, Pubmed breaks down your search and it tries to map every term that you've used to a medical subject heading. So for example, you'll notice that I've got listed the MESH terms for diabetes and hypertension. And sometimes those MESH terms are exactly like the terms that you've entered, and sometimes they're different. So for example, in Pubmed, if you were to type in pet therapy, Pubmed will map pet therapy to the MESH term for pet therapy, which is actually animal-assisted therapy. All right, so this slide, I want to talk a little bit about Google and Google Scholar. And I don't have a problem with you searching Google or Google Scholar, but what I do have a problem with is if that's all that you search. In fact, I recommend that you search databases first, then search Google and Google Scholar. So I want to start out with Google. Google has an advanced search feature, and it'll be on the lower right hand corner of your screen. There'll be an option that says settings. If you click on settings, select advanced search. What advanced search allows you to do is search within a site or a specific domain. So for example, if you're searching for information on the Atkins diet, you can actually have Google set up to just search all websites that have a .gov domain, or more specifically, search for NIH.gov, which is the National Institute of Health. And that can be very useful in narrowing down your search, whether you want to search for a .gov, which is government resources, .edu, which is educational resources, and that can kind of ensure that what you're finding are high-quality resources versus .com, which stands for commerce, and there might be a corporate sponsorship. You can also search .org, which stands for organizations as well. You don't have to do this, but again, this will just help you narrow down your search results in Google. Now, Google Scholar, you can actually access through the Hardin Library's website. If you click on Health Science Resources A to Z, this will take you to a list of all our health sciences related databases and websites. By clicking on the letter G, you'll have a list of all the databases and websites that begin with the letter G, which also includes Google Scholar. And then from here, you just click on the link for Google Scholar, and now you can start your search. If you're accessing Google Scholar from off campus, after you click on the link to Google Scholar, you'll be prompted to enter in your Hawk ID and password. After you enter that information, then you'll be taken to the Google Scholar website, and you can begin your search. And what I like about Google Scholar is it only searches for scholarly journals and their articles. And so if you access Google Scholar from the Hardin Library website, you'll notice there's not a link or an icon like you'll find in our databases like Pubmed, but it's usually to the right of the citation. It'll say view it at UI link, and if you click on that, it'll give you options on how to access the article. And like with the UI link, your options include full text access when it's available, links to the InfoHawk Plus catalog, and interlibrary loan to request the article. So if you want to search Google Scholar, go through the Hardin Library website, and you'll have access to the UI links to let you know how you can find that article. And then I just want to talk very briefly about evaluating resources on the internet. So when you're looking for resources on the internet, let's say you're searching Google, for example, just look for accuracy. How accurate is the information based on what you're looking for. And by accuracy, one of the things you might want to look at is the date of the website or the web page. Authority, where is the information coming from? Who's sponsoring that information? And again, you could think of like a .gov website versus a .com. A .com website could have corporate sponsorship, where a .gov will not. Objectivity and biasness, and again, this could go with the .gov versus the .com. Is there any biasness in the information that you're finding on the internet? And again, that's based on the information that you're looking for. How current and up-to-date is the information? And the easiest way to find that is just go down to the bottom of the website and just see when it was created and when it was updated. Comprehensiveness. And again, you're going to know how comprehensive the information is. Again, this is based on the information that you're looking for. Does it give you everything that you need? Do you still need more information? Or is the information not valid to what you're trying to find? That also goes with suitability. And a lot of these points kind of mesh together, but I like to kind of list them separately. So suitability can be, how suitable is this to your paper or maybe the project that you're working on? So these are just some things that you should keep aware of when you're searching on the internet. Because again, think about it this way, databases are subject specific, where search engines like Google are not. And then again, if you have any questions about anything that I've gone over in this presentation, or if you need any assistance during the semester, or or even after the semester, as long as you're here at the University of Iowa, please do not hesitate to contact me. If I'm unavailable, I'm really good about leaving out-of-office messages. You can contact the Hardin Library Reference Desk, and when you go to our website, there's a box that says Contact Hardin. If I'm unavailable, or if you have questions during the evening or weekends, there's always someone at the desk whenever the Hardin Library is open.
Thanks, Chris, for the talk. You've kind of expanded on some myths. I think a lot of people come to the library believing there are books and there are journals. But your additional step-by-step brief overview of many of the resources that are here, electronic resources, interlibrary loan, and so forth, I think have expanded our view. I've often done lit searches for business writing or technical papers that I've written. In fact, I most often include literature in it. Can you expand a little bit on the importance of doing a literature search as business or technical people are writing?
Well, I think a literature search is extremely important, whether you want to do a research paper or you're working on a project. And I actually consider a literature search step 2 in the process. And to me, step 1 is actually determining what it is you want to do a search on. Once you've determined the topics that you want to search, I just think it's extremely important to actually conduct a literature search to find out what information is out there and what information is relevant to what you want to search and what do you want to include in your paper. For a project, while you might not necessarily be writing a paper on your project, I think doing a literature search is still just as important, so you can know what has already been done. Maybe along the lines of what's already been conducted as far as similar projects, or maybe you can take information from the literature to help enhance the project that you're currently working on, or use that as evidence to back up the validity of your project. So I think a literature search is extremely important. I can't imagine writing a research paper without doing a literature search. One of the things that we offer here at the Hardin Library, whether it's myself or my colleagues, is assistance on literature searches. And so once you've come up with the question, or if you need assistance coming up with the question, we can assist with that. And then I think the next step is actually determining what databases and resources to use to actually find relevant results based on your information needs. And not only that, but what search strategies can be used to help narrow down the search results. For example, one of the best databases to search is Pubmed, because it covers everything in the biosciences. But people have a love-hate relationship with Pubmed. They love the fact that there's 26 million citations in Pubmed, but they hate the fact there's 26 million citations in Pubmed. So what we can do is we can show you different ways to search Pubmed, for example, that will help you narrow down the results and make it easier for you to find specifically what it is that you need.
Another topic, you touched on EndNote in your lectures, EndNote Desktop as well as the EndNote Basic, but the importance of keeping sort of a personal library of one's own literature was first raised to me by Dr. Jim Torner in epidemiology, and he commented that in his graduate training and many years in being a professor, he has kept EndNote libraries to collect the topics and the abstracts, and in some instances the full text articles of things that he has specialized in his topical areas, including clinical epidemiology and other fields. Can you comment on the importance of maybe establishing a personal EndNote library?
I think it's extremely important, and it can save you so much time in the future. The great thing about EndNote, and I'm going to use EndNote Desktop as an example, is once you get your EndNote library installed, it's your permanent library. It's not going anywhere. I mean, granted, EndNote might have updates every now and then, but as long as you're here at the university, you'll automatically get those updates. When you leave the university, if you ever decide to, you still have your EndNote library, and that's the beauty of it. So I always tell everyone, get an EndNote desktop library right away. And yes, you can import citations from any of our databases. You can organize those citations into what are known as groups, and think of them as folders. And you can organize your citations any way that you need to ensure that you can easily find those citations in the future. The great thing with EndNote Desktop is you have unlimited citation and attachment storage. Not only that, but EndNote Desktop allows you have to set up your account to do this. It will automatically find full text. And what that means is as you import citations, if it can find the PDF to that citation, it will automatically attach that to the citation information. And all you have to do is just click on the citation to open it up, scroll down a little bit, and you'll find the PDF to that article. If a PDF is not available, you can also individually click on a citation and it'll take you to our UI link to let you know how you can get the article. Unfortunately, nothing's perfect, so there might be an electronic link to an article, but for some reason, EndNote won't automatically find that, and so you'll have to go through our UI link to find that as another option. But that's one of the many features in the EndNote desktop library that's just fantastic for permanent file storage in regards to citations. Again, those citations aren't going to go anywhere. You have unlimited storage, and you have several different options to find the full text version. And not only that, but if full text is not available and you request that article through interlibrary loan, you can actually, and what they'll do is they'll send you the PDF of that article. You can actually attach that PDF to the citation in your EndNote library. So it's a fantastic resource to have. It really is, and I can't talk enough about it. I mean, it's just a great resource for everyone to have access to.
Very cool. Are there additional workshops or electronic resources generally that people can look for in learning more about Hardin Library or some of these strategies?
Yes, we do have a series of Hardin open workshops, and we have them every semester. And if you go to our website and you go to the services box, it's on the left-hand side, there's a link that says Hardin Open Workshops. And if you click on that link, it'll give you a series of all the workshops that are available every semester. It'll give you the date and the time and the location, and also the title and description of the class. And we always have several on Pubmed and CINAHL and Embase, which are some of our more popularly used databases. If you can attend a session, there's also an option to request a session, and so the instructor will be contacted, and you can just set up an individual consultation with the instructor. But also, you can feel free to contact me anytime, and I can certainly set up a consultation and go over any of the resources or services that we have at the Hardin Library.
Great.
So.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Nicely done.
Thank you.